For every new EP or S-Pass holder added in the last 5 years, about 4 more locals took up Pmet jobs.
I also like to stress that what we are talking about here is actually the pressure on our people. So the situation is not as rosy as what we are painted.
I would like to clarify if Minister Teo believes that simply slowing down the rate of EP and S-Pass holders is sufficient to ensure that local PMETs do not get displaced.
We have adjusted work pass policies regularly and slowed down the growth of EP and S-Passes considerably. In the last 5 years, 2014 to 2019, the number of EP and S-Pass holders has grown on average less than 9,000 annually. This is less than 1/3 of the annual average growth of 30,400 in the earlier 5-year period. And that would be from 2009 to 2014. At the same time, in the last 5 years, 2014 to 2019, the number of locals in Pmet jobs has grown on average around 35,000 annually. Contrast the 9,000 and 35,000. In other words, for every new EP or S-Pass holder added in the last 5 years, about 4 more locals took up Pmet jobs. Just think about that. Mr. Speaker, in his earlier speech, Mr. Leong Man Wai reminisced about the good old days. But I have a question. Was it really so good? In the 90s, about 3 in 10 locals were in Pmet jobs. Mr. Leong may not have realized this, but he could almost be said at that time to have been the privileged minority. Fast forward to today, nearly 6 in 10 locals are in Pmet jobs. In fact, local Pmets outnumber EP holders 7:1. For every EP holder that you can find, there are 7 locals in Pmet jobs. Please know that you two are always in our hearts. However long the storm lasts, MOM will walk this journey with you. However tough it may be, we will help you bounce back. Our mission is to help each and every one of you emerge stronger by never giving up hope.
Can I clarify one point? You mentioned that from the period of 2014 to 2019, the average increase of PMET for locals is 35,000. May I know, do you have the data for the number of PR and new citizens granted during that period? I happen to have a number that tells me that the average increase for every year during the period was 50,000.
I think we have regularly reported that on average, in the last couple of years, not the entire few decades that he may be referring to, every year the number of Singapore citizens goes up by around 20,000, and then the number of new PRs are about 30,000. However, I think what Mr. Leong is trying to suggest is that all of your gains is meaningless because it's all occupied by PRs and citizens. First, I'd like to point out that he's wrong in imagining that all the new citizens and all the new PRs are in the workforce. A significant number of them are still children still in school. That's how we top up our population. A good number of those new citizens and PRs are married to our citizens. They're part of family expansion. In case Mr. Leong has not noticed, if I remember correctly from my population portfolio, I believe today, in today's context, 1 in 3 marriages involving a citizen also involves a non-citizen. Is Mr. Leong suggesting that these new citizens are any less of a citizens? Is Mr. Leong suggesting, therefore, that we should discount them, not include them? I'd like Mr. Leong to share his views with us. And do we then say that within the SC Singapore citizen ranks, we start drawing a distinction between a new citizen of 2 years ago, 20 years ago, or how far back must you be a citizen to be a real citizen? However, this constant obsession, if I may put it that way, with drawing lines, I'm not sure it's good for us as a society.
I appreciate the efforts by the MOM to address Pmet concerns. And that said, I would like to clarify if Minister Teo believes that simply slowing down the rate of EP and S-Pass holders is sufficient to ensure that local Pmets do not get displaced. I say this in part because this strategy, while it's a very blunt strategy, and for starters, we need to take into account base effects. So let me explain. Even if the rate of issuance has slowed, as Minister Teo has shared, it's misleading to actually compare the two. So for instance, a 20% increase from 50 people, for example, is 10 people, but a 10% increase from 200 people is in fact an increase of 20 people, which is larger in absolute terms. Now, I understand that 35,000 people is larger than 9,000, but the point is that the slowdown in the rate of EP and S-Pass issuance is less dramatic than Minister Teo claims. Moreover, we should be aware that of the effect of diminishing returns, by which I mean many Pmets may already have secured foreign talent, and many Pmet positions may already have been secured by foreign talent. And so it's no surprise that the number that is now required actually goes down.
I did not say that one contributed to the other. I stated the facts. This is what they were. The facts are what they are. But I thought that I should perhaps address Dr. James Lim's other question. Are we satisfied with slowing down the rate of growth of EP and S-Pass holders? The perspective that I'd like to share is this. Ultimately, we have to ask ourselves, what does it take to help Singaporeans stay in employment, stay out of unemployment, and over time, to achieve income growth, to achieve retirement adequacy? Those are the 4 things that MOM is always looking at. Then we ask ourselves, what is the best way to achieve these outcomes? If we can do so without adding to the number of EP S-Pass holders, for the first 7 months of this year, total number of EP and S-Pass holders have gone down by 22,000. That's what it is. Suppose we can bring it down to a different number and so on, but at the same time, the job opportunities for Singaporeans have shrunk. Your children, my children one day coming to us and say, Mom, Dad, sorry, can't find a decent job in Singapore anymore. And they really no longer have that opportunity of the 6 in 10 jobs that we talked about, which many countries have found themselves in that sort of a situation. Is that going to be better for us? Well, we'll have to think very hard about whether the answer is yes. Thank you.